Hey, 8th grade history. It is Tuesday, and we are going through the chapter 24 about the Cold War and about post-World War II. And so I want to talk to you about the United States and other countries dividing up Europe. We worked with England and France during World War II, but we also worked with Russia. Now, Russia was communist. You remember back in 1917, they dropped out of World War I because they had the Russian Revolution and they became communist. And so, but we worked with them. And the reason we worked with them, even though we didn't trust them, was because we were coming in from the West and the Russians were coming in from the East, and they're squeezing the Germans. And so the Germans decided they would attack the Russians and just get rid of them. Well, the Russians are coming in this direction. The Americans, the French, and the British are coming in this direction, and we squeeze Germany. We end up landing in Berlin, which is the capital of Germany. Well, at the end of the war is over now. Everybody's happy. Everything's good. So now we're going to figure out what we're going to do with Germany. What are we going to do with all this land that Germany now possesses? And so the four countries got together, and they sat down and they said, okay, we are going to divide the land equally. So, France got France back. England always had England. The United States kind of was overseeing the whole thing. And the Russians said, we're going to take this land over here. After World War II, there were several countries, Romania, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, Albania, that all became communist because they were taken over by the Russians. So they were still countries, but they were puppet regimes. In other words, they were communist because that's what they were told to do. That was because they were owned basically by the Russians. Then there was actually, Germany was divided into two sections. East Germany was owned by the Russians. West Germany was really controlled by the Americans, the British, and the French. So for many, many years, when you would go to the Olympics, for example, you would have West Germany, which is democratic, and East Germany, which is communist. And we did that for many, many years. Even to the place where Berlin, which is actually technically in East Germany, there was a French section of Berlin, there was an English section of Berlin, there was an American section of Berlin, which was called West Berlin, and then there was East Berlin, which was communist. Now, what people were doing was they were getting into Berlin, then getting to the west side of Berlin, then they could get out of Berlin and go to the democratic portion of the world. And the communists didn't like that. You know how we were talking about building a wall to keep people out? Well, they built a wall to keep people in, and they called it the Berlin Wall. And the Berlin Wall was built right through the middle of Berlin to keep the east side of Berlin on that side, and the west side of Berlin was for Americans and French and British, even though it was in East Germany. Now, 1989, finally, communism falls. And so the Cold War is over. They say, okay, we can't keep up. So they let go of all this land that they own, and they actually came in December of 89 and tore down the Berlin Wall. They literally went in with picks and shovels and tore this thing down, big concrete. It was about 8-10 feet wide at the top, and it was 20 feet tall, and it was just a wall to keep people in. Well, it fell in 89. David Hasselhoff went over to East Germany and sang, and that's why all the Germans love him. Anyway, but that's what happened. And the reason was America, Britain, France were all at that time democratic, and the Russians were communist. And so the Cold War, again, we talked about that yesterday. And so that's what happened. Anyway, just wanted to give you that. Hopefully that clears up some questions you had in your mind as to why we talked about the Berlin Wall, yet it's not there anymore, because it came down in 1989. And thank God. Anyway, hope you're having a great day. Hope you're having a great week. Let me know if you have any problems. Talk to you later.